Hello everybody, I'm going to demo the installation and preliminary setup of a well-known PHP framework called Codeigniter. After this video you should be able to get going on your own Codeigniter website. Codeigniter is built by a company called Ellis Lab and as of October 6, 2014 is now owned by BCIT. It was created in 2006, so it's not as new as some of the other frameworks like Laravel and the Yi framework, but nonetheless it has an exceptional development community. Because of its community involvement, it is a very well documented framework and you can find lots of online tutorials. So let's start with the installation process. Now I'm doing this on a MacBook, but the installation steps should be very similar on Windows and Linux. The first step is to download Codeigniter from the Ellis Lab website. Open up a web browser and navigate to codeigniter.com. And once you're there, you'll see a nice big green button that says download. You're going to go ahead and click on that to start the download of the framework. The download is very quick and only takes a few seconds. The website boasts about the minimal footprint of the framework, and if you check out the size of the downloaded zip, you'll see that it has a compressed size of just over 2 megabytes. After you've expanded the zip, the next step is to place the folder in the document root for your web server. If you've installed Apache manually, this folder will be called htdocs and is located at the root of the Apache directory. If you've changed the document root folder for your server like I have, then place the Codeigniter folder in the correct directory. For me, I created a folder called Sites where all of my PHP and other web projects are served. Change the name of the Codeigniter folder to the name of your project so that it's easily identifiable. I'll just change mine to Codeigniter for now. Now let's go see if it works. Assuming your web server is running, open up a browser and navigate to your localhost and append the name of the folder you just changed. If it works, you'll be greeted by a page saying Welcome to Codeigniter. Alright, let's open up the code and take a look. I use an application called Brackets for web development. It's Adobe's attempt at making their own Sublime text. It's free and has loads of extensions, and it's definitely worth taking a look. Regardless of which text editor or IDE you're using, open up the project so that we can take a look at some of the important files inside a Codeigniter project. As the website states, Codeigniter is fully baked, meaning that it has loads of capabilities. Most of these capabilities are beyond the scope of a beginner Codeigniter tutorial, so I will focus on how to use the core features of the framework, routing, controllers, and views. Let's open a few files to see what they do. The config directory has several files related to the general configuration of the project, including databases and user agents, but we're just going to open the file called roots.php. Next, open the controllers directory. Ignore index.html for now and open the welcome.php file. Lastly, expand the views directory and open the welcome_message.php file. This page is what's known as a view. A view is just a page of a website. However, in Codeigniter and other frameworks, each view is not accessed by typing the file name into the address bar, but instead is visible via roots and controllers. More on that in a minute. For now, let's try editing this page and viewing our changes in a browser. I'm going to remove all the content from this page and replace it with some simple HTML. Since this is the first page that is seen when viewing the site, all of our changes will be visible right away. I'm using an extension called emmet.io that allows for ultra-fast HTML markup entry. I've used it in Brackets, Sublime, and PHP Storm, but I know it's available in other platforms too. So I'll just populate this page with some list elements. And I guess just remove the last row, we don't really need that one for the purpose of testing. Save that file, and then let's go over to Chrome and we'll see if the changes are visible. Let's go back to the localhost directory and the Codeigniter path. And now you can see that at the root of the project, the changes we made to the welcome page are visible at the root. We'll go back to our text editor here and add one more line. Let's add a h1 tag and put a title inside of it. And then we'll go back to Chrome and see the changes made again. Refresh the page and there's the title. So let's try to create our own view now. Let's go to the roots file, and if you go down to line 41, you can see that the default controller is the welcome controller. So let's go to the welcome controller PHP file. You can see on line 23 that the welcome controller is executing the welcome message view file. So let's go to the welcome message view file, and we can see that this is the page that we just edited. So let's try to create a new one then. Let's copy the content, create a new file, let's call it hello.php, and then let's paste our content in there, and then, I don't know, change it up, just so we can see the difference between the two views, and let's call this one hello. So now we go back to the welcome controller and change the PHP file that will be executed when this controller is executed. We'll change it to hello, which is the new file we just created, and now it will be visible at the root of the project.
Let's talk about the URL and what's really going on. The layout of the URL is the site, then index.php, then the controller, and then the method of the controller that you want to use. The index.php part is a little confusing, but we'll talk about how to remove that later. Now here you can see I haven't actually entered a controller method to use, and in this case the method called index will be used. Switching back to brackets, let's look at our controller class again. From the URL, we are accessing this welcome controller and the index function. Instead of leaving the method section of the URL blank, let's add index as the method. So let's try and make a new method in the welcome controller. So we'll copy the old one, and we'll paste the new one, and we'll title it hello. Now back to the browser, and let's change the URL to the hello method. And you can see the page still loads. What if we want to create a new controller called pages? We would have to change this controller segment to say pages, but the pages controller doesn't exist yet, so let's go create one. We'll have to create a new file, and let's call it pages.php. Now inside this new PHP file, let's start. Begin with the PHP tags, and we want to define a new class called pages, which has to extend CI underscore controller, stands for Codeigniter controller. This means that this class has all the functionality that a Codeigniter controller needs. Now the first method of a controller class doesn't always need to be index, but we're going to do so because it's the best practice. Public function index brackets and opening curly brackets and enter. Inside this method we want to start with this, then load, then view, and then in the brackets of view we want to load which view we want to load, the hello view. Before we go check if this works, I just want to go to the view and change the contents of it so that we can see the contents change when we reload the page. So now we can change the URL from welcome, and we can say pages, and it should work. And it does. Next thing we're going to do is to change a bug in the URL. You don't want this index.php in there. We want to be able to access this, but we get this error. So what we're going to need to do is to go to this website, Codeigniter URLs, Codeigniter user guide. That's Codeigniter user guide general urls.html. And scroll down until you get to here and copy this text. Then go to brackets. Then we're going to create a new file, paste it in there, and I'll save this file into Codeigniter to the root, call it .htaccess. Save it. Now when we go back, and when you refresh the page, and it still doesn't work. Now it may work on your computer, but it doesn't work on Bryson's, so what we're going to have to do is go into the logs, scroll to the bottom, and it tells me Bryson's site's index is not found. Of course it's not found because that doesn't exist. So we need to change it from just index to the name of the project. Save it. And now it should work. Thanks for watching this intro tutorial to Codeigniter. Now you should know pretty much enough to start building your own website.